Hi, everyone. Welcome to another 363B tutorial. This is Jesse Pack, your professor here. Um, Today, we are going to be doing a Photoshop tutorial, and it will be on the Levels tool. As a reminder, anytime if you need to slow down the video or pause the video to practice a little bit or just to get the hang of a tool down, feel free to do so. Otherwise, let's go ahead and begin. So, as usual, go ahead and download the file off of Canvas. If this is for a different class, it will probably be on Canvas 2 or navigate to wherever I tell you to download it. If this is for the very far future, where this is just a video online, you can download it in the description below. But otherwise, like go ahead and download this first. And I already downloaded mine, so I already opened it up here. And for this assignment, your windows can be whatever you want, so you can just kind of ignore what I have over here on the sides. But you should have something that kind of looks like this. Now, before we jump into this assignment, I kind of just want to go over the levels tool with y'all. So the levels tool is a really useful tool just to kind of let's go ahead and open up maybe one of my old images or something like that. Let's see. Maybe we can go to let's go back to open. Let's go here. Actually grab this reference here. Now, the levels tool can be reached by going to image, adjustments, and levels. And if you want to grab a random image online, you can do so. I recommend just something with good lighting, something that has like a full range of values also. So dark, dark, and light, light. And basically, the values tool, and let me show you all again, it's under image, adjustments, and levels. So it's called the levels tool, not the values tool. It is a values tool though. Basically allows us to control our values in an image. So I can use any of these sliders to adjust my midtones, my darks, my light tones over here. And I can also pinpoint certain channels that I want to adjust as well. So as you can see that it's changing a lot of the midtones in the red channel if I do that. Whereas if I want to do the other channels, or if I just want to do just all the colors and values that are in the image, I can set it at RGB. Um, Other than that, though, let's go ahead and actually start over real quick. Other than that, though, I kind of want to just go over how to read this chart a little bit and how to use these sliders over here on the bottom. Um, so first and foremost, what's good to know is there are presets up here. I've never used them before, although if you want to use them, and if it's helpful and if it's going to make your image better, you could use these. But I always like to have full control over what I have. There's also auto levels, which we'll talk about later. I very rarely use this. I use it for a specific technique, but I never really use it to adjust my values because as an illustrator and a designer, I want to be able to choose my values and how they how they like work with the storytelling in my image versus like just allowing this to do whatever it wants, right? But first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about these sliders here. And to do this, I can keep this in color, but I also will show you, I also want to show you on black and white in a little bit. Um, so first and foremost, you have three sliders. They're set as 0, 1, and 255. So Similar to the hue and saturation tool, if I change this and I press OK and I go back to levels, this will become the new norm. So I have to be a little bit careful about what I want to do at each stage of my levels. By the way, the shortcut for levels is Control or Command L. Command if you're on a Mac, Control if you are on a PC. But what's good to know is that these sliders here, okay, you want to make sure you move them to what you want before you confirm, because if you readjust the levels, it's a little bit more difficult to bring it back unless you undo it, right? Um, Now, first and foremost, your three sliders here will represent the dark tones, the mid tones, and the light tones. So if I want to adjust my dark tones, I could do this. So by pushing it towards the middle, it gets darker. If I want to adjust my midtones, I could do this. Or if I want to adjust my lights, I could do this. So you can see by pushing that towards the middle, that also gets lighter. And there's a reason why it does that. So if y'all look at this chart over here, these are actually the range of values from the darkest dark. So the left side will represent like any sort of like pure black, whereas on the right side, it will represent any sort of like clear white. And it's a little weird. It's not, what is it? I feel like there's not like a lot of pure white in here, even though it's saying there's a lot. So that's kind of why it's like going up that way. Like that, I would say there's maybe more of like these like almost like white, so very mid light tones here. But you can see like there's generally a lot more darker tones than there is lighter tones, right? Let's take a look at this in grayscale really quick, actually. So let's go ahead and desaturate this. So if I do that again, you can clearly see that there's actually no, what is it? There's like actually like not a lot of values that are from white to this like very light gray. And our lightest light almost starts like right here, right? And so you can see over here, there's all these like really dark tones. So there's a lot of this tone, and there's less of like a 50% gray here. And basically what you're doing when you are sliding these is you are creating a new scale based off of your sliders. So for example, if I move my slider this way and I move it this way, so let's squeeze these together a little bit more. I'm basically saying that I want everything from here to here, sorry, from like here to here is going to be black, and anything from here to here is going to be from black to a 50% gray. So no matter what, you're basically setting a new 50%, and then you're saying that you want all of these ranges to this range over here to be from black to a 50% gray, which is why we have so many light tones now over here, because we're making those sliders further apart, right? If I slide this to the left, you can see it doesn't change anything because there's no values from here to here. But the moment it starts to hit here, it's going to start changing all of these values from here to here to a pure white. And everything from the other side over here will be from a white to a 50% gray. So that's kind of how levels work. I recommend, again, if you have an image of some sort that you want to play around with, I would just make sure to have like a full range of values. Mine almost does, so that's fine. Otherwise, like you can still play around it with like an image with lower range of values. It's always interesting to see how that works. Like if you have a low contrast image, you can actually make it more contrasty. Otherwise, like go ahead and play around with it, and when you're finished, we'll go ahead and continue. Now, if you played around with it a little bit, the next thing I want to talk about are these sliders over here. Now, these sliders basically are going to, it's basically going to be your, it's going to like create your full range of values. So what I mean by that is right now we're saying that in this image, in this chart, I want to make sure that our darkest dark is black, if there is any black, and our lightest light is white, if there is any white, right? If I slide this a little bit more to the right here, then the darkest value I'm allowed to have in this image is going to be wherever this dark slider is. Same for the other side. If I slide this to the left, it's going to darken all of my values uniformly because it's basically saying that I want to have a value range in my image that is from this black all the way to this level of gray, right? So these parts don't really change as much, I would say, because you can't get any darker than like black, but you're definitely seeing a lot more changes, maybe like in this area over here. Other than that, though, the last thing I want to talk about is auto. Auto just tries to push contrast most of the time. It doesn't always do a good job, and sometimes it does nothing. We can kind of see what it does here. It might try to like add a little bit more like contrast to the image. Yeah, you can see that. So it tried to push it to its lightest, try to add a little bit more light in there, right? And sometimes the outcome can be good, but again, I wouldn't use it unless like you can always try it out first, see how it looks, and then work from there. That's not a bad idea. But I do recommend that it's always good to design your work intentionally. You know, leaving it up to the computer most of the time may not have a desired effect. So, you're really leaving it up to chance at that point. And you know, if you're not sure how to light or create values that tell a story or mood that you wanted to say, then it might not be best to use, you know, it might be better to like learn how to actually use this first before jumping into using auto, right? Because auto, it's just going to do one thing. But, you know, if you're trying to push contrast and that's all you want to do, that could be a very useful tool. Otherwise, another thing I want to mention is auto is a little bit diff. If you use the shortcut keys for auto, so kind of how auto looks, right? If I use the shortcut keys for auto, it can look a little different sometimes. So let's try Control or Command, Shift, and then L. And you can see it. Oh, sorry, I accidentally opened up my Adobe Bridge. Let's go ahead and close this. Let's go ahead and close this. You can see it looks very different than if I just use auto over here, right? This one kept a lot of the same colors, whereas Control or Command Shift and then L adds a lot of yellow to this. So it kind of adds a little more like balance into I wouldn't say balance actually, but it just kind of like add a little more contrast to the temperatures as well. But that might not be the desired effect all the time too, right? Like maybe you want things to be a little redder for a certain reason, you know? Anyways, feel free to play around with this. Otherwise, like, if you're ready for the assignment, feel free to move on to the original file. So the first thing I kind of want to do here is this one here. To find this image, the easiest thing to do is you can literally just put your mouse over it and you can see if it like appears anywhere. No, in this case, like it's not. But another thing you could do is you can turn on auto select, or you can hold the control or command key to toggle it and just click on the image. And you can see it's inside of group one. So let's go to open that up. There we go. This is this one here. Now, for the first image, we're going to create more contrast. Anytime you want to create contrast in your levels tool, you're going to go ahead and push the dark slider to the center and the light slider to the center. And try to get as close as you can. You can even play around with your midtones a little bit just to get an exact thing. But I definitely recommend push the dark and light sliders first, and then from there, adjust your midtones and all that stuff. So as close as you can. I think that's pretty close. Whenever you want a lower contrast, so maybe you want like a foggy, atmospheric sort of feeling, or maybe you want things to feel like they're getting dark. What you're going to do instead, let's go ahead and find this one. What you're going to do instead is you're going to go down here and you're going to lighten this up. You can also create a low contrast by going towards the center that way. You can see it's like very foggy. But if you're trying, but it does also darken your image. So unless that's what you're trying to go for, you can always like readjust the sliders on these positions to get your desired effect. But we're going to go ahead and like push the dark slider towards the middle. And that gives us kind of like a foggy sort of feel. And then for this one over here, we're going to push the light slider to the middle. Perfect. Now, again, you can always adjust things however you need. So, for example, let's just go back to this one here. If you needed a totally different sort of feel for your value, you can do that, right? Like this one's just black and white, basically. It has pixelation though, because the image is not very high quality. But you can also like readjust things kind of like this, right? You can also darken the image after. You can get different effects just by playing with your value. This almost looks like an old photo or memory or something. It's like sun bleached, right? The last one needs an auto level. So this one's going to be layer 4. Now, for this one, if you use the levels button, it doesn't really give you the desired effect. So for this one, we're going to need the shortcut key. And to do that, it's Control, Command, or Command. Control if you're on a PC, Command if you're on a Mac, Shift, and then L. Once you have that, you do have a completed assignment, so you can go ahead and submit that. But otherwise, like that's basically how levels as a tool work. Um, if you have any questions about the tool or any questions about the assignment, feel free to reach out. We can always set an appointment to talk about it, or we can like, go over during class. But otherwise, I hope this was a very helpful tutorial on using levels. So go ahead and save your assignment. Don't forget to go to Save As, put your name in the front, kind of like that, right? Go ahead and save a copy. If you save as first, it's not even going to, it's just going to keep the same naming format. Go to JPEG, save, and that's perfect. So we can set it on anywhere from medium to maximum for just the homework assignments. Don't need to use that much, computer space to, for these kind of things. But otherwise, that's basically it, y'all. Again, reach out if you have any questions, and I will see you all in the next video.